lawmakers. We'll look ahead to this evening's State of the State message. We'll also look ahead to next week's budget briefing with the House and Senate Appropriations Chairman. And what's ahead for Medicaid? We'll have the details. Those stories and more are next. Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for Wednesday, January 12th. Here are your hosts, Gerald, Bryant, and Nwandi, Lawson.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lawmakers. Most of our broadcast tonight will be devoted to a preview of Governor Sonny Perdue's State of the State address.
And there is a lot of ground to cover. Many of the governor's legislative priorities have already been announced. He's expected to expand on those themes at 8 p.m. this evening. This will be Governor Perdue's third combined State of the State and budget address. He's expected to talk about education, ethics, the economy, and Medicaid. Georgia Public Broadcasting will carry the governor's address live on radio and television beginning at 8 p.m. We're also streaming the speech live on our website at gtv.org. Once again this year, there will be a Democratic response to Governor Perdue's State of the State address that will be delivered by Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor, and we'll carry that speech live as well on GTV Radio, TV, and on our website. Following the Lieutenant Governor's address, we'll be joined by Tom Crawford, the national editor of CapitalImpact.com, for his comments on both speeches.
Well, since education spending makes up the largest part of the state budget, Governor Perdue will most likely designate a great deal of tonight's speech to that subject. Last week, the governor announced increases in teacher pay. Today, he unveiled the other components of his Georgia Learns education package. The Master Teacher Program would create a new level of teacher certification. These educators would serve as academic coaches to other teachers and be eligible for additional pay. The Professional Standards Commission and the Department of Education would work together to develop the criteria.
One of the things that we're doing and making AP courses available all across the state is our Georgia Virtual High School. And this will be a great opportunity for kids in more rural areas where they may not have had enough kids in a class to form a German AP class, or even American history. This will give them an opportunity for those bright students to tune in, as well as SAT prep and other things in that.
The virtual high school would create an internet-based public school to give students access to advanced placement courses, summer classes, and other science and math courses.
We're giving our school systems the flexibility as duly elected local officials to make the call within the classroom of where they think the resources need to go.
And Governor Perdue recommends an extension to the policy allowing school districts to spend a portion of their budget at their own discretion. The legislation also allows schools to target their own class size reductions and puts off for 2 years plans to create smaller classes in grades 4 through 12. And it's on this point that Governor Perdue and Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor disagree.
I disagree with the governor because these are dollars that are already being spent. The state government is providing the money to lower class sizes in K through 3, but it is not being spent for that purpose at the local level. So I'm not talking about new dollars for education. I'm talking about a commitment to doing what is right for the future of education. So another priority we expect Governor Perdue to illustrate tonight is his desire for a healthier Georgia. The Medicaid program is a big part of that goal. Lawmakers David Zelski is live at the Capitol with more. David.
Well, thanks, Gerald. When the economy took a turn for the worse a few years back, Medicaid expenses skyrocketed so much that in order to continue funding Medicaid recipients beyond the next couple of years, changes have to be made.
In 1996, Georgia Governor Zell Miller noticed a dangerous trend in the Medicaid program. The growth in the number of Medicaid recipients threatened to surpass funds set aside for the program.
Governor Miller was concerned about the cost of Medicaid. He commissioned this year-long study of Medicaid, and the idea was that growth would be slowed, the budget would be predictable, but yet people would still be able to be cared for.
Having a more rational health care system, if we had implemented that back in the 90s, would have definitely helped.
But the economy took a drastic turn for the better, and Medicaid reform was put on the back burner until now. What I would like to do is have more predictability there. We're not talking about diminishing health care. We're talking about a health care relationship between those members in our Medicaid plan and a physician that would make sense and really help them to be healthier in the future. With that in mind, Governor Perdue presented a Medicaid reform proposal in August that would move 1 million of the 1.4 million Medicaid recipients to managed care programs, HMOs.
The state will be divided into 6 regions with a choice of at least 2 HMO options for Medicaid recipients in those regions. However, the $400,000 that will not be addressed in this program, the aging, blind, and disabled, account for 60% of overall Medicaid costs. Now, this proposal does not require legislative approval, but what would have to pass on the floor is a plan to move peak care recipients into the Medicaid program. Reporting live, I'm David Zelski for Lawmakers.
David, remind us again of how much of the Medicaid expenditures the federal government covers.
The federal government covers about 60%, and that leaves the remaining 40% up to the state.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Meanwhile, the governor has expressed his desire to improve Medicaid members' access to health care. Last week, he announced his intention to make sure that all Georgians have better access to driver's license services.
In order to facilitate the short-term customer service goals that I want to have, then we're going to appropriate $1.5 million for 46 additional driver's license examiners, a 12% increase over the current personnel staff. One of the things that bothered me in our budget restraints over the last couple of years is that this department chose to take people off the front line rather than off the back office line.
Governor Sonny Perdue has also announced several initiatives that promote job growth and tourism in the state of Georgia. Lawmakers Chris Knight joins us live from the Capitol with more. Chris.
Nwandi, Governor Perdue's initiatives aim to boost the state's economy. There, State Representative Ron Stevens, chairman of the Economic Development and Tourism Committee, about the benefits these initiatives could bring to Georgia.
People are coming to Georgia, and they're going to come in large numbers.
Representative Ron Stevens is optimistic about Governor Perdue's plans for Georgia's economy and tourist destinations.
The governor, of course, has realized and put into place the phenomenal importance of tourism in the state,
including Governor Perdue's Tourism Growth Initiative, which promotes an area of economic development Representative Stevens says has been looked over in years past.
The phenomenal economic impact on the tourism side is something that hasn't been tapped into before. The governor is going to open this can, and it's going to benefit everybody in the state.
But just how beneficial is tourism to the state's economy?
As soon as the tourist arrives in Georgia, I'd love to for them to step out of the car and I'd get on my knees and kiss their shoes for what they do to the state. They really reduce our taxes, and then they leave us with their revenue.
The governor is also focusing on job growth with 2 new economic development initiatives, those being the Strategic Industry and Innovation Act and the Entrepreneur and Small Business Growth Act.
Small businesses, of course, is the core. And, of course, as we get back to the tourism, that, of course, is the small business side. But you're also going to see economic development and jobs in other areas that really hasn't even been looked at very much. And as we shift into another gear in economic development, the citizens in the state of Georgia are just going to benefit phenomenally from the growth that we're about to experience.
And according to the governor, nearly 19,000 new jobs were created between January 2003 and August 2004. Reporting live, I'm Chris Knight for Lawmakers.
Now, Chris, how much money has tourism brought to the state during that same period?
For Nwandi, it was estimated over $1.4 billion in tourism state tax revenue was generated.
All right, thanks so much, Chris. And a part of keeping Georgia's economy growing is ensuring that Georgia is safe. Among his initiatives for Safe Georgia are equal jury strikes for the prosecution, a victim resolution act, and more help to get the backlog taken care of in GBI crime labs.
One of the areas that you've heard about is our GBI crime lab. We are putting money into that to reduce the backlog by adding 20 new positions at $1.4 million and then providing $3 million for outsourcing to move off many of those tests that are preventing them from being available for the DAs in our courtrooms. And Vernon has assured me that we will move forward in getting that under control as well.
Staying on the theme of safety, the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police were honored at the Capitol today. Senators Seth Harp and Nick Seabaugh authored a resolution in honor of their commitment to keeping Georgians safe.
The safety of our homes, our families, our very way of life is underpinned because of the hard work and dedication that each and every one of you will take and do take on a daily basis.
Today, the Senate passed a resolution recognizing them for their efforts and thanking them for that. And that's what we did today, to recognize them and thank them publicly.
This association prides itself on providing the leadership in professionalizing law enforcement. A way of doing that, of course, is ensuring that laws are enacted that complement that effort. And we couldn't do that if we didn't enjoy the partnership we do with our General Assembly.
And now we continue our look at some of what will likely be high-profile issues in the state of the state in the upcoming session. Ethics legislation certainly falls into that category. Passing a comprehensive ethics bill has been a priority for Governor Sonny Perdue since he took office, and his floor leadership submitted his ethics package yesterday. Jesse Freeman is standing by live with more of that story. Jesse.
Gerald, the push for ethics reform by the governor's office officially began yesterday when floor leaders in the House, led by Representative Rick Golick, submitted House Bill 48, also known as the Honesty in Government Act. Governor Perdue expressed his enthusiasm for getting the bill through both houses at yesterday morning's Eggs and Issues breakfast.
I'm very excited about the possibility of a strong, balanced ethics bill being put on my desk before the end of the year that I can sign that will say to the people of Georgia, we want you to do your business in a transparent way, in a way that will make you proud, and I'm very much excited about that opportunity.
So House Bill 48 may be the most high-profile ethics bill before the House, but it isn't the only one. The Democratic House caucus has filed their own ethics legislation. Like the governor's bill, it would limit gifts to lawmakers and provide for a one-year wait before legislators could become lobbyists. But there are, of course, some major differences.
I think there's three significant differences. One is that I am seeking the limitation on political parties to give to nonpartisan judicial races. Two, my bill, Democratic caucus bill, is lowering the giving limits. The governor's not taking a position on that. And also, we have a limitation in our bill on the amount of money that one candidate may give to another candidate from his or her campaign fund.
Now, also like Governor Perdue's bill, the Democratic bill would move duties of the Secretary of State's office to the State Ethics Commission. We'll keep you updated on the progress of both of these during the session. Reporting live, I'm Jesse Freeman from Lawmakers.
Jesse, Representative Oliver mentioned lowering giving limits. What did she say that limit should be?
Well, the bill she and the Democratic caucus are sponsoring would lower giving limits from $5,000 per donor to $2,000 per donor per election cycle.
Okay, thank you very much, Jesse. Meanwhile, another issue that is part of Governor Sonny Perdue's announced legislative agenda this year is allowing faith-based groups that deliver social services to compete for state funds. That measure failed to get through the General Assembly last year, although the governor made an appeal for passage in his 2004 State of the State address.
Faith-based organizations provide critical services to children, seniors, battered women, the disabled, the homeless, and other at-risk groups. But our Georgia Constitution is out of step with the U.S. Constitution in this area. It discriminates against faith-based providers. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution should be the standard for providing care in Georgia, not an outdated provision rooted in the dark period of religious bigotry. The simple 12-word Faith and Family Services Amendment brings our Constitution in line with the U.S. Constitution. It will ensure that our citizens can have access to the best providers of social services.
Last week, the governor announced he will reintroduce the Faith and Family Services Amendment resolution. Because it's a constitutional amendment, it would require a two-thirds vote in both the House and Senate to pass.
Well, we're less than 1 hour away from the combined State of the State budget address. Earlier, we talked to Tom Crawford of CapitalImpact.com about what Governor Perdue would need to say in tonight's speech.
I'm not sure he needs so much to accomplish anything outside of reassuring folks that even though there's a new majority party in charge now, everything is fine and the ship of state is sailing onward and the steady man at the helm, et cetera, et cetera. So I think more of reassurance than anything else.
So with that in mind, is there anything that he does not need to do? What should he be looking to avoid in this particular speech?
Well, as I said, getting people scared or concerned. You know, the last couple of years they cut so much money out of the budget.
especially in the areas of education and health care. And I think he'll be able to announce tonight that he is going to be able to spend some more money on those two areas, which again should get folks feeling a little bit better about things.
We have been fairly secretive about the state of the state, as most governors are, not wanting to release things. Should we expect any surprises tonight, or will it be education, budget, ethics, the things we've been hearing about?
That's what I would guess, Gerald. He has not been one to make big surprises when he gives speeches like this. He tends to talk more about maybe some little details he hasn't mentioned before, but if there's a big surprise, I'll be surprised. I look for more of an incremental, evolutionary type speech from him.
Well, now, Tom, obviously everyone's looking forward to even the next gubernatorial election at this point as well, and some of the governor's critics have said that he's not really making much of a splash. He himself says that perhaps is not significant, but I'm wondering, in this particular state of the state, does he perhaps need to make a bit more of a splash than he has thus far?
Well, you always want to make a splash in the sense that you always want to come across favorably with the people, but Governor Perdue has said many times, don't judge me by the number of bills I sign or by the number of laws I pass. I'm here to take care of the people's business in as efficient and as effective a way I can, and if I can do that, then I think I've carried out the duties of my office. So I don't think he's one to lay a big checklist out there of things he's going to do or accomplish. Just, again, reassure people that things are okay.
Is this the point at which, though, he does need to start making the legislative record, since the House is now solidly Republican as well as the Senate, and he needs to start listing some accomplishments as he heads into his aspirations for a second term?
Well, that's the conventional wisdom, but again, if you talk to him and you talk to his people, they say, we don't need to get a lot of activist government things out there. I think he made the remark to me a couple of weeks ago. I believe people are more afraid of what government will do to them than do for them, and that indicates to me someone who still doesn't want to take much of an activist tack here as he's into his last 2 years.
So what have you heard, overall? Obviously, we've heard more about the budget surplus and some of the things that might result from that. In terms of what we might hear from the governor, though, can you give us some more specifics about what happens with that?
Well, he has hinted already at a few of the things he wants to spend some of the money on. And again, state revenues are growing, so there will be some extra money this year. He wants to spend some of it on a teacher pay raise. He wants to be able to fund enrollment growth at the schools, which they've had to cut back on the last couple of years. At the same time, he's going to let the local schools put off at least for another year any class size reduction. But again, he's several things that he will be spending a little more money on, and I'm sure there's a couple of surprises there that he'll maybe announce in his speech tonight.
Well, we've been talking with Tom Crawford from CapitalImpact.com. Tom is going to join us this night after the governor's State of the State message and after Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor and the Democratic response. So we look forward to hearing your comments then, Tom.
Great. Thanks, Gerald.
Well, next week, the General Assembly begins the budget process and combined House-Senate hearings. Earlier, I asked House Appropriations Chair Ben Harbin for a preview, and we began with the Board of Regents spending for higher education.
We will see the budget in full tonight. I don't know how much relief. They won't have the drastic cuts they've had in the past, and I think the university system, we hope, will be pleased with what they hear tonight from the governor due to increase the revenue. I think the entire state, as I said, will probably be pleased with what they see tonight.
Well, again, when we look at that budget pie, and I guess our second biggest slice there would be health care. States around the country obviously feeling the crunch with Medicaid and the rising cost of health care. I'm wondering what kinds of initiatives do you see coming down in terms of relief in that area?
Well, we're working with the governor on his care management organizations. We do think that is a good way to look. Not everyone is totally committed, but I do think it is a step we need to take. The health care increase has been too high. We've got to do something to curtail that. It's eating up too much of our revenue. We've got to find a way to offer the health care services, not limit those health care services, but do it in the most efficient and least expensive way we can do it. And I think that we're going to work with the governor on the care management organizations. We will work with our state employees on the health savings accounts like they do at the office in the federal government. And I think those and some other things will help us to keep costs down.
I know yesterday the Senate Health and Human Services Committee got a chance to hear from some folks who have ideas about how to change that. On the House side, are there any plans for how to restructure the program, or what kinds of ways that you all will go about trying to learn about this?
We'll begin meeting. We'll have, of course, our joint meetings Tuesday and Wednesday. Our subcommittees will begin meeting very soon afterwards, and the Health Care Committee, which is chaired by Representative Jeff Brown, they will begin listening to them and working with them, as I said, to make sure we're offering the health services we should offer and taking care of those people who are in need of the services, but trying to do it in a less expensive manner.
A lot of talk, obviously, about the change in party power under the Gold Dome. Right. Any changes that we can see in the way that the appropriations process will take place now?
There'll be some minor things. We're going to be very open. All of our meetings are going to be public. We're going to let everyone have a say. We're probably going to change some of the things. We're going to be a little more efficient in the way we spend money. That is our goal. We want to be very responsible. We would like to, at some point in the future, begin looking at every department from $0 to make sure those programs we're funding are actually still needed today, because there are a lot of things that were funded years ago that have not been looked at, and we're not doing that to try to hurt people. Those that are still providing the service will be left intact, but those that are maybe not necessary anymore because it's been taken over by something else, we will probably look at ways to move that money to a more efficient or more effective, I should say, place.
Well, very good. Looks like you have your work cut out for you. Thanks so much for being with us. House Appropriations Chair Ben Harvin. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I talked with Senate Appropriations Chairman Jack Hill to get his take on next week's budget hearing and what increased state revenue collections mean for the budget.
The hearings are somewhat like we've done in the past, in that we will be bringing in the major divisions of state government to talk about the 06 and 05 amended budget, and we'll basically focus on those areas of the state government that have the biggest impact in those states.
Now, there is better budget news, as has been reported in the last couple of weeks. The state revenue collections have been up considerably in December, and over in the last fiscal year, up about 12%. What does that mean for the state budget and for spending for state departments?
Well, I think it means one thing. That means no across-the-board austerity cuts that are budget-wide, department-wide, and that's great. I think it means full funding for the formula for K-12 and for technical adult and for the regents, as I understand, is in the budget. The second thing it means, though, is that we're on our way to maybe restoring our reserves, which have been depleted over the last two budget years. So it's very important in trying to maintain our AAA bond rating.
Now, the governor will be having his State of the State and State of the Budget address tonight. What types of budgetary considerations will he be addressing tonight?
Well, we have some information, but I think he will be, of course, saying the obvious, that we're not going to be cutting, we will not be cutting any formula-driven agencies. I think he's, of course, announced increase in the number of DFAC caseworkers around the state. No prisons affected. Basically, state government will operate at the funding that has been operating at, and I think it's a good year for us to begin to continue to recover from this recession.
Democrats who now find themselves in a minority in the House and Senate for the first time in 130 years say they have some concerns about Republican priorities, some saying that they're fearful of what might happen to the Hope Scholarship. The Lieutenant Governor would like to see a public vote on mandating smaller class sizes. Is there any danger at this point that any of those programs would be affected? I haven't heard anything about cuts there.
No, you haven't. Becoming very political. I think the 2-year race for the governor's beginning, and folks who don't have to balance the budget, don't have to make hard decisions, can afford to be for anything popular and against anything unpopular.
Should we expect any surprise announcements tonight and any additional spending? Or a lot of it, is it already out on the table like the DFAC workers are saying?
Well, I think that every governor wants to retain a few surprises or a few announcements for the sake of his presentation and his agenda. So there may be a few surprises, but Governor Perdue is a very transparent, very open governor, and I think that he has tried to break some of the good news early.
Senator Jack Hill, the Chairman of Senate Appropriations, we look forward to talking with you next week during the budget hearing.
Thank you so much, Gerald. Pleasure to be with you.
In other news, Georgia is the only state in the nation that does not allow nurse practitioners to write prescriptions. Today, nurses of all sorts were at the Capitol offering health awareness, as well as lobbying for the right to write those prescriptions. Lawmakers Jasmine Neal has more.
Medical professionals promoting good health were on hand at the Capitol today.
Today, the Coalition of Advanced Practice Nurses are here, and they consist of certified registered nurse practitioners, nurse midwives, and nurse practitioners. And we're here hosting a health fair.
Blood pressure and bone breaking screenings were also offered.
Women are more prone to weakening of the bones as they get older, and this will pick up whether a woman is at risk for osteoporosis or not.
The Nurse Practitioners Association was in attendance as well. They hope to shed light on a specific piece of legislation.
We are the only state that does not permit nurse practitioners to write prescriptions.
Fundraising assistance was also a concern. But in the meantime, first things first.
What we try to do is just get the public aware of our issue and how we can help improve access to improving our ability to do our jobs as far as writing prescriptions.
Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Jasmine Neal. Well, on his third day of serving as Speaker of the House, Glenn Richardson had one more reason to celebrate. As Majority Leader Gary King explains, it was the culmination of a wild ride that began when Richardson fell off a roof several weeks ago.
We do have a special occasion today. As mentioned earlier, today is the birthday of the Speaker. There were a few times over the past few weeks that we didn't know if he would live to see this day. He tried not to do it, but I'm going to ask the staff to bring in a cake. And as they're coming in, if this body would sing happy birthday to the Speaker, I think it'd be appropriate. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Speaker. Happy birthday to you. That's clearly not enough candles.
Well, you can stay with Georgia Public Broadcasting tonight for Governor Sonny Perdue's State of the State address at 8 p.m. The governor's address will be simulcast on television and radio and streamed live on the GPB website. If you miss any part of our State of the State program tonight, you can watch a repeat of that broadcast tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Friday on GPB. Don't miss Georgia Weekend Review, as host Susan Hoffman is joined by our own Gerald Bryant to talk about the first week of the session. That's Friday at 7 p.m. Georgia Week is followed by Georgia Business Report at 7:30. Be sure to watch an in-depth profile of U.S. Senator Johnny Isakson, Georgia's Trained Man of the Year. Now, Georgia Business Report airs Friday at 7:30. Lawmakers will not be broadcast tomorrow because the Georgia General Assembly will not be in session, but be sure to join us next Tuesday, January 18th at 7 p.m. when Lawmakers return with an exclusive in-depth interview with Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor. That's next Tuesday, January 18th. And now you can stay tuned for Life Laundry. That's coming up next right here on GTV.
I haven't heard that much bad singing since the Partridge Family reunion. That's our broadcast for this week's second legislative day, full legislative day of the Georgia General Assembly. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gerald Bryant.
I'm Nwandi Lawson. We'll be back at 8 p.m. for Georgia Public Broadcasting's live simulcast of Governor Sonny Perdue's State of the State. We'll see you at 8.
Bye-bye.
This has been a production of Georgia Public Broadcasting.